What destroys emotional intimacy, what ruins it, is resentment. Resentment and its accumulation. This is the main thing I see. That is, a person, because they have formed a certain lens here of what the real object, the real partner should be. And here the object is abstract. And here we create, we look, we have expectations, then comes a vision, and then disappointment. And this disappointment, when it accumulates and accumulates, leads to resentment. Well, resentment is essentially disappointment. Then comes the feeling of resentment because I still want things to go my way. This is a childish feeling. Resentment should only be for children. For them, for kids, it leads to some kind of result. In adults, resentment, this is my opinion, and I hope the opinion of most psychologists, should not exist. That is, you can and should say, I want you to do this. This is the most basic approach, but even that would already be good. So resentment itself is not just disappointment, it is a subsequent feeling that, well, you can call it a feeling, although it is actually manipulation. But it is bitter, it is very painful, it is unpleasant for you. And this resentment, who is it associated with? With this partner. So who am I resentful towards? Towards him? No. Towards this one? Yes. I feel resentment towards this one, such pain, such bitterness. Ugh! It's not just disappointment. Disappointment is more like, well, how, what? That's disappointment. But resentment is like, well, fine, and that's it. And then it either turns into shouting or crying or ignoring. Most often people go into ignoring in order to push through everything I want. You have to do it, it's your fault, and so on. It doesn't matter what it's about, whether it's infidelity or just some minor disappointment of yours, but resentment is a separate mechanism. I'll tell you everything at the end, what exercises you can do. You absolutely need to do them. So, disappointments themselves. Disappointments, as I said, are a separate mechanism. Disappointments are one thing, resentments are another. Resentment is used as a form of manipulation to satisfy this need, so there won't be disappointment, so there will be enchantment. Like this. I thought you would give me flowers. I'm disappointed. Okay, fine. You jerk, now I'm offended. What do I want? I want him to give me flowers. He brought flowers. Well, that's good. So the disappointment has dissipated, but a bit of a residue remains. And in the following times, I just start to pay more attention to it. Interesting. It's like putting a check mark or not, or maybe a dash instead. So disappointment is also a separate thing. They need to be dealt with, they need to be worked through, both resentments and disappointments, each separately. A lack of understanding, an unwillingness from one of the partners regarding emotional intimacy. What is emotional intimacy? How do you build it? How do you go about it? Doing these exercises. If one of the partners doesn't understand, doesn't want to, says, that's your problem, I don't have any problems. That's it. This will lead to a situation where, for example, one person is focused on emotional intimacy and says, I don't care at all. That's it. I'm minding my own business. That's your problem. This is where disappointment sets in. What does disappointment destroy? Emotional intimacy. Where is emotional intimacy? Right here. Of course, I'll still try and say, come on, please, let's do it. Oh, what are we doing there? Well, let's see what's there. Oh, we have to do this here. I don't want to. Let's just do it the old-fashioned way. Our parents didn't know any of this. There was no psychology back then. They lived happily ever after. Everything was wonderful. Look at the photographs. Take a look. You'll see those happy faces, if they're even there. Our grandmothers, grandfathers, basically even our moms and dads, if you're about my age or older. That's why a lack of understanding, an unwillingness to build emotional intimacy with one of the partners will lead to the destruction of emotional closeness. The next thing is arguments. Arguments that are left unresolved. That is, if there's a conflict that escalates into an argument, people yell at each other, maybe something else happens, then they storm off, and one is left disappointed, the other is hurt. So both of them, even if one isn't hurt, what about you? Are you upset? Yeah, I'm upset. All right then. And you see, they don't build emotional intimacy, it gets destroyed. One says, whatever, I'm just going to do my own thing. The other sits there feeling hurt, or lies down to sleep, or cries, maybe even falls into depression. This destroys emotional intimacy. Is that clear? Don't do this. To avoid this, you need to break out of these patterns, you need to work through things, you need to work on yourself first, and only then on the relationship, instead of jumping straight into strategic psychology. How do you improve a relationship? How do you improve what's going on in your head? Next, insults, manipulation, unmet needs of one or both partners. In other words, mutually unmet needs also destroy relationships. In fact, these are what destroy relationships first and foremost. Well, insults are obvious here, right? All kinds of manipulation, abuse, a popular word nowadays, basically. Any kind of tyranny in a relationship. This leads to the emotional intimacy in the relationship disappearing, fading away, diminishing, growing cold. The higher, as I said, your emotional intimacy is on a scale from 0 to 100%, the stronger your relationship will be. Conflicts and quarrels cannot exist within emotional intimacy. If your emotional intimacy is at 100, there will be no quarrels. There will always be conflict no matter what. Conflict is a sign that your family is alive, because one person comes from one set of relationships and the other or someone else comes from a different set of relationships. Different parents, different circumstances, culture, and so on. Of course, there should be conflict, but if emotional intimacy is at 100, then you see, what kind of conflict would that be? Both value the relationship. We come to an agreement. All right, we come to an agreement. We talk things over, reason it out. Everything is fine. But when emotional intimacy is down to 5%, well, there's nothing left there. What kind of emotional closeness is that? What's there to value? Forget it. Forget it. Take that. And then there's crying and resentment. That's why this also destroys things. The sixth point I wrote down is the rejection of your partner's qualities, interests, goals, and desires. When they have some interests, I don't know, like collecting herbariums. Well, it depends on what for. Maybe he wants to pickle something or whatever. Traveling. So she likes to travel, but I don't want to. I don't even understand why people travel at all. Why do you even need that? She goes to the theater. I don't accept that at all. I just don't want that at all. They just look down on it. Or even let's say he plays computer games. These are children playing. Yes, he has a child inside his head who needs some kind of compensation. But he is your partner. If you tell him that only kids play games, does that build emotional closeness or destroy it? It destroys it. If she goes to the theater with her friend and you say, oh my God, what a nightmare, or like to the ballet, there are men in tights, in leotards. What a disgrace, what a shame. Does that build or destroy? It destroys. What should you do? You need to show emotional flexibility. When you don't want to go somewhere, go anyway. That will break me. No, it won't break you. Show emotional flexibility. That is, you don't need to suppress yourself, but understand that for both your partner and you, this will build emotional closeness. Well, you could actually talk about this in detail, of course. Again, go ahead and Google it. If needed, I can make a separate video about all of this. Because there are interests like drinking with friends. Or drinking alone. Well, that's not so great, right? To share that interest, but he has that. If you argue and don't let him do it, what will happen? Will he change? No, probably not. And if he does change, he'll feel dissatisfied, he'll feel tense, under pressure, stressed out. Where does that lead? It destroys his emotional intimacy. You're the enemy. You didn't let my friends from school drink today, or yesterday, or every day. That also destroys his emotional intimacy. He is also a bearer of emotional intimacy. Basically, anything that destroys emotional intimacy and drives you apart, that destroys emotional intimacy and separates you from each other. You can actually write down exactly what those things are, make a list right now, and stop doing them. If you are doing these things, you need to look for the reason why you're doing them. Because if you simply stop doing it, the tension inside you will grow. For example, you used to come home and check how clean the apartment was. You're a man, you work, your wife is at home, you take care of her, that's it. And you come in, okay, it's clean here, it's clean here, it's clean here. But here, well, why are you checking? Because you're just a perfectionist and want everyone around you to be the same. There's a certain psychopathic tendency there. So what needs to be addressed? That's what you need to work on, because these people show flexibility. Everyone stays quiet, cleans up, does everything every day, but they're under constant tension. And do they form emotional closeness? No. They're just waiting for you to leave for work. It's the same with children. When mom comes home from school, what will she do? She'll check his homework. Dad will also check the grade book. Does the child have emotional closeness with his mom when he's waiting for her to yell at him, tear out pages, make him rewrite things, and so on and so forth? Does this destroy emotional closeness? Of course it destroys it between mother and child. When a mother yells at her child, scolds him, puts him in the corner, forbids him from doing something, does that build emotional closeness or destroy it? It destroys it. And then people ask, why doesn't the child want to talk to me? That's exactly why. That's the reason everything has been listed. That's why. The most important thing, 30 minutes, sorry about that. Exercises for building emotional closeness. The first is to work through all resentments. There is a method for working through this in the course on overcoming breakups. Go there, find working through resentment, and get rid of all your resentments. Everything you can write down is all your past experience, all that garbage you've been carrying around and have accumulated. The cup is already overflowing. You need to empty the overflowing cup. Resentment is making you feel bad. Not because I'll keep working through what pushes me away from him. Then don't live with this person. He's already become better, he really has. Get rid of that filth inside yourself. Why do you need to carry this around? That's one thing. Secondly, it destroys emotional intimacy. It destroys it in you and in him or in her. Whatever it is, if it's betrayal, then don't live with that person. No, for some reason I want to stay. Because of personal fears, it doesn't matter, whether it's for the children, for the property, or for comfort. Work through your reaction to the betrayal. It happened in the past, it's not happening now. If it is happening now and you're forced to stay, as if you're chained to a radiator, strapped to a chair, or something else. Work through your reaction, work through your resentment, and it will definitely be resolved. The second exercise is very important. It's hugging. When you hug, your hug shouldn't be like this. Remember how you hug your friends? Like this, right? That is, when we connect with our shoulders, with our arms, and we can even connect with our chests. But with this part, this area, the pelvis, no. You need to hug each other. It doesn't matter what your relationship is like right now, or how you feel about each other, whether you're experiencing rejection from one another. I can make a separate video about this exercise. This is a very important exercise. When you hug your so-called offender, this ungrateful jerk, you will feel a sense of rejection toward that person. In other words, it's an internal jolt. This internal jolt, this push inside, means that you have either disappointment or resentment there. You need to work through it. Let's move up a step. Work through your resentment and disappointments. We've worked on it. They came up to each other again and hugged. It's better to make a list from the start, work through the list, and then hug. If there is still rejection, sex is off limits. In this case, sex is not allowed. For men, because for a man, a hug is already the beginning of sex. Right? Many men will confirm this. The hug itself, yes, should be followed by something more. You ask the same kind of hug, pelvis to pelvis. That's where we record grievances, what grievances there are. That's it. You don't need to go looking for them on purpose. Just stand there, pay attention, and your demons will do the rest. They will lead you to rejection. And then ask yourself, why did the rejection happen? That's why you need to write them down and work through them. These are your demons. You can stand for a minute through the rejection when you start shaking like that. If it's just one situation that makes you shake, work through it. If several situations come up and you're thinking, there and there too, bastard, scum, I hate them. That's it, no need to kick it around. This is a diagnostic exercise. Among other things, it's aimed at forming diagnostic closeness in order to identify disappointments and resentments that you will then work through using the video. Working through resentments. That's all. Keep going, keep doing it until you can stand for 15 minutes calmly, steadily, even if you're shaking hard. But there is no emotional closeness. It will be really noticeable, this emotional closeness. It has a pleasant taste and a pleasant smell. Remember when you had it? It felt good, didn't it? It almost makes you want to cry and you want to get it back. This brings it back, believe me. It's worth watching for 30 or 40 minutes or even 10 hours of some video just to bring it back, to build emotional closeness so you don't make this mistake. Emotional closeness is the foundation of any relationship. You could be spoon-feeding your partner and then going off to work or cheating on them, it doesn't matter. Emotional closeness won't let you cheat, won't let you look to the side, and so on. All right, let's move on. Third, there is something called nonviolent communication. Type nonviolent communication Marshall Rosenberg into YouTube. Choose either English or Russian, whichever you prefer. So, using this, well, I'd call it a method, or rather an approach you must find out all of your partner's emotional needs. The list will be long, but there will be 3 or 4 main emotional needs, and for each of these needs, you absolutely have to make a separate list of the words, actions, and behaviors that can satisfy that need. Your partner should be the one to tell you this. If you do this, that will already be a good start. To go further, there is, let's say, a more advanced level of these exercises, some additional ones. But they should only be done after this embrace. For that, you need to go to the channel where you'll find more details. Yes, we won't reveal everything here. The Telegram channel is linked in the description below this video. Come in, but really, this is usually enough. If you let go of resentments and disappointments, go through these hugging rituals and write down everything that forms, Here's another exercise I'll mention. Make a list of actions, words, and behaviors that will foster emotional intimacy. But this is similar to the previous recommendation, yes, to the one before. Those actions, words, and behaviors that will meet each other's emotional needs. One list from you and one list from your partner, if you are in a relationship. This is a recommendation for you. If your relationship is over, then this is a recommendation for your future relationships. And maybe, as a bit of a nudge, to point out what you didn't do, but not to make you feel guilty. If it's possible to restore the relationship and your partner wants that, then it's better to build rather than destroy. Because of course it's easier to just destroy everything forever, leave without drawing any conclusions, enter a new relationship, and have everything fall apart there as well. In any case, we look forward to seeing you on our Telegram channel. We have a special course on relationship preparation where you'll find all this and much more information than what I've shared with you here. That's all for now. I hope this will be useful for your life.